Welcome to No Room for Phonies.
Hello.
Charles is back because he wanted to be part of this podcast, which is the top 10 contributions of women to society.
And I have nothing to contribute.
Yeah, you're going to go, yes, yes. That's
Absolutely.
right. And this is the second to last top 10. The end of May is the last top 10. And then I'm going to do a series on education.
Awesome.
8 weeks.
I mean, I have enjoyed the top 10 very much.
8 weeks on education, what parents should expect from teachers, how to make your kids successful at school, like all that sort of stuff.
Good.
So 8 weeks on education.
That's good, through the summer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the cocktail of the month is...
Wine? No.
No, we drank wine tonight, but it's the salty dog and we haven't even tried it yet.
Oh.
So we have to try it like next week.
Yeah.
We'll be back.
Before May is over.
We'll be back to talk about the salty dog. But anyway, you can look it up online. I'll actually post it this week. I'll put it on the website if you want to look at it. The book recommendation that I'm doing this week is A Long Way Home by Saru Beasley, and the movie is Lion.
Oh, that was a very good movie.
So
I should have read the book first, but...
But anyway, it's the story of a little boy in India, and anyway, I don't know spoilers because it's so good. You should read the book and you should watch the movie. And actually, the book and the movie match. Like, really often they don't, but they're very close.
That's cool.
And it's a true story. So,
and Nicole
Kidman.
And Patel. I don't remember his first name.
Yeah, Dev Patel?
Yeah,
I think so. Anyway, and the podcast recommendation is the next question with Katie Couric. So she just asks, it is what it says in the title.
Who asks the question? The person coming on?
No,
or
she does.
Oh, I have to listen to this.
It's very good, and I like Katie Couric. I think she's a good reporter and journalist, so I like her. And then the website update, you can check out free patterns. There is a paper piecing pattern that we just put up for a cardinal. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of other different patterns as well. I've put a lot of things in the inspiration section because you and I are taking a course together. So I have added a bunch of ideas in the inspiration sections.
From the course?
From the course.
Oh, good.
And the other things I've read as well. So anyway, take a moment to check out the website. So the top 10 contributions of women to society. And so the 10th, I'm going to use as number 10, I'm doing women as caretakers. Okay. Because women spend more time on caregiving than men.
I would
still
say that's
even
true. Yeah,
I think. I mean, we shared more because you stayed home for several years with the kids as well as I did, so that was a bit different.
And are you limiting it to caretaking of your own family or caretaking of others too?
No, this is more
I would still say
talking about
that women still
I'm more
extend the caregiving out to others too.
They often organize or distribute the tasks involved in caregiving.
Yep.
And they take more responsibility for what happens in the day-to-day running of the home.
Yes. Well, you did make the menu plan, even though I did the grocery and shopping and the cooking, but you did the planning.
And role strain and role conflict are far more common for women than for men.
What are
role strain? Like, I'm a mother, I'm a teacher, I'm a mother, I'm a doctor,
right.
I'm a mother.
Okay,
and then the conflict between being a mother, being a full-time person on the job. I mean, we would like to think that has changed, but I don't think it has.
It was very interesting when I was a stay-at-home dad, though. Another sign that things hadn't changed is if people asked me what I did and I said, oh, I'm a full-time stay-at-home dad, conversation would end if it was men. They did not know how to have a conversation about that or relate to it.
Yeah.
So
and
I think that's a sign right there.
Yeah. And women tend to feel the burden of what happens with home and children and family more than men. But also, I believe there are emotional and hormonal imbalances that impact women as caretakers. Because especially with babies, and men just don't have those hormones.
We don't have the oxytocin.
Like when you're a nursing mother and your baby is crying, there's a hormone that releases.
Yep.
It just is.
Yep.
So.
No, and that doesn't happen to men. Men have the pressure. I mean, this is societal, not how we ran our home, but the pressure to be the provider.
Right. I'm not saying men don't have their pressures.
You know, they might not talk about it or share it, but they're consumed inside with that fear that they're not.
And it's part of their self-esteem and their whatever. But we're not talking about men.
I know. But I'm here, so I'm
women
bouncing
as
off.
Caretakers. So that is definitely.
But I have not denied that what you have said.
No, 100%. So number 9 is women as educators. So I researched some women who had like a top kind of impact on education in society. But I mean, I have to say from my experience as an elementary principal, there were way less men than women. And even it seemed okay for women to be elementary principals, but then when it got up to secondary, then it wasn't quite the same. And men teaching primary is
not as many.
No, way less. But so women are educators, but
in my field of language education, my department is unusual in that we are 30% men. Usually it's 5%.
Yeah. So Michelle Bachelet is the president of Chile, and she did a lot of education reform in her country, and she focused a lot on girls' education because it sets them on a path to greater economic opportunities. So that's the problem. If women don't get educated and whatever, then
the progress in the country is held back.
Yeah. And then there's Malala Yousafzai, right? And her activist and going to school and what happened to her. I mean, that's, she is committed to girls' education. And Julia Gillard, who is the former Prime Minister of Australia and chair of the board of the Global Partnership for Education. So, So, I mean, it was funny to me that a lot of these women I had never heard of, but yet men who do things, we often know their names. In education or in everything. Yeah. And everything. One though was Annie Sullivan, Helen Keller's teacher, right? Is more famous. Maria Montessori.
Absolutely.
Right? And Michelle Obama. Right? And Mary McLeod Bethune's parents were both former slaves. And so she didn't have much access to education but as a child. But despite this, she went on to become a teacher herself, founding her own school. She started with 6 students, and then she went on to become a champion of African American women's education, founding the Bethune-Cookman College, now university, to help women of color receive access to quality education.
Her name I have heard before, but I didn't know what she had done. I just knew.
Yeah. So.
I'll just turn that off.
Yeah, there's a little phone. But anyway, so women as caregivers, definitely women as educators. This to me was extremely interesting. Some of these names, like I had heard, but women as innovators. So we all know Marie Curie and the theory of radioactivity. I mean, she's she received a Nobel Prize, right? So
she was acknowledged for what she did.
Grace Hopper All programs for computers were written in numerical code, and she not only designed Harvard's Mark I computer in 1944, but she also invented something called the compiler, and the device translated written language into computer coding.
Which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, but have you ever heard her name?
Nope.
No.
And COBOL, I've heard of COBOL, but I wouldn't have known that a woman was the one who invented it, who co-invented it.
She also coined the term bug and debug, and she was a rear admiral in the Navy. So not nothing shy there. Rosalind Franklin discovered the DNA double helix, and it's often attributed to James Watson and Francis Crick, who won the Nobel Prize in 1962 for discovering it. However, they weren't actually the ones who made the discovery.
Wow. So they actually stole credit for that.
Yep. Stephanie Kwolek is the person who invented Kevlar.
Cool.
And it makes sense. She was attempting to turn a solid polymer into a liquid. And although this failed, when she looked closer, she realized the fibers in the substance were 5 times stronger than steel. So, I mean, it's Kevlar. Some of my teachers had to wear Kevlar
when they worked with students with special needs and things. Yeah.
Josephine Cochrane invented the dishwasher. So that's there you cool. Go. Probably out of necessity. Maria Beasley invented the life raft.
Wow.
Yep. Emergency rafts were simple planks with no guardrails. Maria invented a more sophisticated device that was fireproof, easily folded and unfolded for storage, and had guardrails on the sides to keep people safe inside. Dr. Shirley Jackson is credited with modern-day telecommunication. She was the first black woman to graduate with a PhD from MIT in 1973. Wow, then she began to work at Bell.
Her research led to fiber optics,
portable fax machines,
solar cells, touch
caller ID, call waiting.
Wow.
Catherine Burr Blodgett, non-reflective glass. During World War II, Catherine was a crucial mind in the research behind several inventions, including gas masks, smoke screens, and a technique for de-icing airplane wings.
Amazing.
Hedy Lamarr, actress, right? Frequency hopping technology. You may know her as a glamorous black and white film star, but did you know she also worked to improve torpedo technology in World War II? She was a gifted mathematician and engineer.
And yet she did acting as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
She developed the type of technology she developed ended up being the foundation for Wi-Fi and GPS. So that's pretty amazing.
Amazing. And nobody ever gives people, I mean, obviously you researched it so that somebody has found them out and given them credit, but they're not celebrated.
No. I dug for this stuff.
Okay.
Mary Anderson invented the windshield wiper.
That's pretty cool.
Jean Villapro power was from 1794 to 1871. She's a French naturalist. She was famous in her day for an invention that allowed people to study marine life more easily, the aquarium.
Wow.
So that's way back, like 1794.
Yeah.
So these are older, like Margaret Knight, 1838 to 1914. If you've ever used a paper bag, you can thank her.
The flat bottom paper bag. That's
the flat bottom paper bag.
Well, she knew how to stretch, like, to economize, like, so there was less waste. She figured out how to do it. That's pretty cool.
This woman, Maria Beasley, successfully marketed at least 15 inventions from she was born in 1847, and they're not sure of the year of her death. Okay. Including a foot warmer, an anti-derailment device for trains, a barrel-making machine. Yeah, so she invented something that would save the life, and then she's the life raft lady. Yeah. I talked about her, the windshield wiper lady. I don't think I talked about Sarah Breedlove and Madam C.J. Walker, 1867 to 1919.
That's the same person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She gave herself a new identity.
Yeah, because she was the first child of her family born after the Emancipation Proclamation. Wow. And she would go on to become the first female self-made millionaire in the United States. Married and widowed by the age of 20, she was working as a laundress when she realized that she and many other black women struggled with hair loss and scalp diseases due to the lack of indoor plumbing and harsh ingredients in hair products.
Yeah, well, they probably would have been washing with lye
soap. Yeah.
Oof.
So anyway, her line was ready for sale, and she set up a college to train hair culturists, and that created a new employment opportunity for all kinds of African American women. Yeah, so she's pretty famous.
That's amazing.
Melita Bentz, if you like your coffee, you can thank German entrepreneur Melita. Yeah, for making it easier to brew. Bentz was a housewife when she became frustrated with the difficulty of making coffee. Percolators often overbrewed. The espresso-style machines of her day left grounds in the drink, and linen bag filters were extremely difficult to clean.
So she invented the paper filter?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't like Melita coffee, though.
No.
But the Melita filters, you still see them.
Yeah. Louise Louise Henry, 1887, 1973. I had an Aunt Beulah. A full list of hers would be a lengthy one. She's known for 110 inventions and 49 patents.
Wow.
Yeah. Henry submitted her first patent for a vacuum ice cream freezer.
That's
when
amazing.
She was a college student.
Still use something like those.
Yeah, when she was a college student.
Wow.
Yeah, so yeah, she had, and her line was, "I invent because I cannot help it."
That's awesome.
Ruth Graves Wakefield, 1903 to 1977. Every single thing we use in a day had an inventor somewhere along the line, even the chocolate chip cookie, and she's the inventor of the chocolate chip cookie.
That's cool.
So the Toll House chocolate cookie, the Toll House chocolate crunch cookie.
That was her first original one.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And Wakefield got a sweet, minimally profitable payout, $1 plus a lifetime supply of chocolate. It's pretty bad, eh?
It's pretty bad.
This we talked about.
Her, yeah.
Grace Hopper. Virginia Apgar is the American doctor that created the Apgar test for babies and saved many, many babies' lives. Nobody, and her line was, "Nobody but nobody is going to stop breathing on me." So
that's
that was
amazing.
her. We talked about Hedy Lamarr. Marion Donovan, 1917 to 1998. If you think dealing with a baby's diapers is messy now, imagine what it was like before there were waterproof covers. And she was the inventor of that. Mary Sherman.
What did she use to make the first ones? Shower curtains.
Shower curtains.
That makes sense.
She sold her company patents for $1 million and went on to invent and patent 20 other items.
Wow.
What do I think will help a lot of people, and most certainly will help me? That's what her thing.
Do you think there's any inventions left to be made?
I do.
I mean, that aren't computer programmed or
do.
artificial
I think
intelligence.
so. I think people. I was just reading that book Upstream.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good things about that. That's a Chip Heath book.
Is it from both Dan and Chip Heath? Or
I'm not sure. Mary
Upstream.
Sherman Morgan, 1921 to 2004. The American chemist left university to take a secret position for a munitions factory during World War II, improving explosives and ordnance for use at the front. When the war was over, she applied to work for North American Aviation's Rocketdyne Division, working on rocket propellants.
Wow.
Yeah, because so much of her work was classified, few people knew about her contributions until her son, George Morgan, wrote a play and a book about her life.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she did rocket fuel.
He said, if I had known how much expertise in rocketry my mother had, we could have asked for help and saved ourselves a great deal of trouble.
Oh, when he was
trying
toy rockets.
With toy rockets. That's funny though.
She's probably busy at work.
Yeah. Mary Van Britten Brown, 1922 to 1929. American nurse, she was a nurse, was concerned about safety when she was home alone at odd hours of the day or night. And the crime rate in her neighborhood in Queens, New York had been increasing. So she realized, so she's the one that created the little opening in the door. So that you could see, like a security,
The little lens in the
doors. And
you talked about the Kevlar.
Yeah, that was Kevlar. Jean L. Cruz. At a time when there was almost no women scientists at NASA, American engineer Jean L. Cruz made a critical contribution, designing a space bumper that could protect satellites and manned craft from space debris and meteorites. So,
wow.
Patricia Bath was born in 1942. Since she entered the field of ophthalmology, Patricia Bath has been breaking new ground. She was the first Black person to serve as an ophthalmology resident at New York University and the first woman on staff at the Jules Stein Eye Institute. But most importantly, for this discussion, she was the first African American female doctor to receive a patent for medical purposes.
Wow.
And the patent was for a laser phaco probe, a medical device she invented in 1981 that quickly and painlessly uses a laser to dissolve cataracts in the eye, then irrigates and cleans the eye to make inserting a replacement lens quick and easy.
Wow.
The ability to restore sight is the ultimate reward.
I think I've seen a documentary about the process.
About that process. Yeah. Anna Stork and Andrea Sarishta were graduate students at Columbia University School of Architecture when the devastating earthquake hit Haiti in 2010. In one of their classes, they were assigned a project to find a way to help with disaster relief. So they spoke to a relief worker, and they realized there was an often forgotten need for disaster strike, which was light. And so the pair created an inflatable, waterproof, and solar-powered light, the Luminade Solar Light. Their design can be packed flat, charges in 6 hours to provide light for 16, and is easy to carry. So they used crowdfunding to make their first 1,000 lights, and after Luminade became a favorite with outdoor enthusiasts and in-home emergency kits, they started a Give Light project. 1 light is donated for every light purchased.
Wow.
So they've provided lights to Nepal and Syrian refugees. So
who knows where it's going recently with COVID.
Isla Hutchinson, after New Zealand teen Isla Hutchinson saw her mother cut her finger while splitting kindling with a hatchet.
Ew.
She realized that there had to be a better way to get this critical job done. So as a science fair project, she decided to invent a device that made it easier and safer to cut kindling. And the result is the kindling cracker, a cast iron device that uses a built-in axe blade in a safety cage.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool. Young kid.
Yeah.
And that, so, you know, I kind of went from old to young.
Innovators and inventors?
I mean, it's probably not, but that was kind of the...
No, I know that's not all, but...
And then number 7, women as communicators. Women often, and I mean, I'm comparing to men because that's what they do, right? Women add nonverbal communication to what they say.
I think men do too, but it's a different wavelength.
Yes. Women apologize more than men.
Except for Canadians. We all say we're sorry.
Yes.
Well, no, but...
Women give out more compliments.
Yes.
Women tend to be more detail-oriented and want to talk through the process of things, usually.
Yes.
More than men.
I'm just a different...
Yes.
I would fit more that, but...
Women prefer to dig deep in conversations and often try to explore the feelings of the person that they're talking with.
Yes.
For sure. Women will listen and negotiate more than men tend to. Women tend to be more collaborative than competitive.
Yes.
And people and relationship focus is more common with women rather than things and ideas.
Right.
So...
But the flip side of the coin for some of these, as a male observer, is the enmeshment factor.
Yes.
Where you get wrapped up in the feelings
right.
everything of somebody else that women shouldn't need to be all that wrapped up in each other's.
Well, and I when I get into women as leaders later on, it has, you know, I don't want to say that it's been to the detriment, but it's like,
yeah,
like sometimes I think you have to step back from the relational aspect of it and set the boundary that's going to keep you from being enmeshed in a situation.
Yeah. And maybe that's why, because men don't bother. A lot of men don't bother.
And I mean, I have...
but men sometimes can be cold, icy leaders, and they have no personality, and they're flat, and they don't know how to do the relational part, which is important.
And I mean, for me, I am more... most of the people that I would consider my very close friends are authentic and honest and say what... Like, there's no holding back, and we can disagree and talk about things and still, you know, like...
maintain the relationship.
And I always know that person is going to tell me their honest perception of what's happened. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's the most important thing about communicating. So...
Would you say that women also give out more insults than men do?
Yes, women are nasty to each other.
That's particularly to each other.
To each other.
Yeah.
Like, yes.
And not necessarily to your face. Sometimes it's to your background.
Yeah. And then number 6, I said women as change makers. So I'm thinking of people like Jane Austen, literature, Florence Nightingale,
medicine,
Emmeline Pankhurst, which was the suffragettes, Marie Curie, Coco Chanel,
with fashion,
Katharine Hepburn. She was an activist, you know, like
not
there was way more
not just an actor,
to her. Mother Teresa, Margaret Thatcher, who was accused of all kinds of, right? Because she was strong.
She was strong and in a culture that's mostly chauvinistic. So
right. Yeah. You know, Queen Elizabeth II. I mean, like, look at her. She's had to change. Look at all even the prime ministers she's had to, you know.
What, 11, 12 now?
Like, she needs to be a highly respected person. I mean, you can agree or disagree with some of her choices or whatever. But Hillary Clinton, Oprah, J.K. Rowling, Jessica Ennis Hill is an Olympian. Yep. Again, Malala. And then I looked at like Canadian particularly women? Canadian women, only Canadian. And Jean Mance was the founder of the Hotel du Hospital.
Like, is that like a chain?
Like the original Hotel du. A lot of them. Nellie McClung, obviously. Lotta Hitchimono, which did some kind of Unitarian Service Committee, created this thing. Roberta Bondar.
Astronaut.
Margaret Atwood. Buffy St. Marie was a huge activist. Nancy Green is an Olympic skier. Louise Arbour was the first Supreme Court.
Justice.
And Ellen Page is an LGBTQ rights activist. So, but do you know that, like, I mean, a few of those people you know, but... Well,
contemporaries that are still alive, obviously, I know those names. McClung, because, well, in the history of civilization in Quebec.
But if I ask you to make a list of men, it would be a lot longer of men that you would know.
Canadian contributors, Yes.
So that's what And then I looked up a whole bunch of things about women as volunteers, which was my number 5. And there's so many women and girls empowerment programs like around the world. Like there's a girls education program in Ghana and women empowerment programs in Morocco.
Is that a particular organization?
Yeah.
Women
India,
empowerment program? Okay.
Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Cork, Ireland, if you can believe it, because there's so much like women need for whatever reason culture
in that area of Ireland is they're really subjugated.
Anyway, and so I mean, I think it is true that women volunteer. I mean, there are it's interesting when you think of like when I was growing up, I played the piano, if you can believe it, for the Lions Club dinners every Wednesday night.
And that was a men's group, right?
It was a men's group, but the lionesses put the meal on for the men. So their wives were lionesses.
Yes.
But the credit and all the stuff went to the men when
the
in actuality the women did a lot of the
work. Not just the cooking. I bet you they did a lot of some of the phone calling and
So I mean I think women
are the unsung heroes so often.
So and then number 4 for me was women as mentors. So I've had great mentors, like I think of Tilly and Ardith and Helen and Heather and Margaret, like people in my life that have been really good mentors to me. My friend Rita, like, you know, and younger people like Jade, and who bring a whole different perspective, you know, to my life. And I'm fortunate in having, like, you know, a good number of strong women in my life. I mean, some I don't have much contact with anymore, but when I think of Brene Brown, she talks about having like that person who is like your person, right? Like, I mean, besides you, but that,
no, I know,
you know, and she says there's probably 1 or 2
for each woman that
like in your life. Like if you have 20, like you're probably not,
the depth isn't necessarily there.
So I think it's interesting. And so, you know, what did I look for in a mentor? You know, a good listener and a sounding board, and someone who is flexible. And, you know, we were doing a thing this morning on perspectives.
Yes.
In our course. And so you want people in your life that bring that diversity of perspective. And I forget what the line was today about not a bad perspective and a good perspective, but I couldn't remember.
A helpful and a less helpful.
And a less helpful perspective. So if you want somebody who's knowledgeable and non-judgmental and able to give you constructive feedback.
Wouldn't it be nice if men and women could kind of do this for each other and it be platonic, like without there being a relationship except for professional mentor, but like even the course, even the professor, even the guy that teaches the course that we do only works with male clients because of the problems that surface when you don't.
Like you want somebody to be honest and candid and able to network and help you find resources. You want them to be, you know, successful in in their career, in that they can overcome issues and, you know, grow, and they've got to have the time, right?
Yeah.
And you want somebody who is actually a learner themselves. Like somebody who's willing to invest in education and growth, right?
They're self-learning, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, those were just things that you want somebody who has a positive outlook, right? And confidence and knowledge of that particular industry, if it's a work mentor kind of a thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And resilience and adaptability. You don't want a mentor that falls apart.
But, I mean, you can't put people up on a pedestal that they have to be human as well. Like
and anyone that I ever dealt with was quite willing to share their ups and downs.
Yeah.
Like, and then number 3 for me was women as leaders. And women as leaders often value work-life balance. Maybe, or have to value work-life balance.
Sometimes forced to.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, it catches up on all of us when we don't, but. So, I mean, yeah, they are empathetic, more like they value relationships a little bit more. As leaders, they do make great listeners.
You know, more as listeners, nurturers. They often want more of the teamwork, although I think all that perspective about it has changed because there's such a focus on the story and the relationship, especially if you're trying to sell something.
Yeah.
It's not really about product anymore. It's about selling the story. So, I mean, even when you look at what you guys do at Niagara College, my NC story.
Yes, absolutely.
That's how you're attracting people to it, right? Women are good at multitasking.
Out of practice and being forced to.
Yeah, and creative problem solving, right? Yeah. They don't. A lot of women just don't take no for an answer, right?
Right.
Handling crisis well. They wearing many hats. You know, this is a big thing, and I found this as a principle, right? Women check their ego. Like, it's less about ego with women than men.
Sadly, sometimes there's a few leaders out of the lack of self-confidence, or they've been beaten down so much they have that fake status-y ego thing that makes them really
I think there's a ton of, and I think there's a ton of good literature now on just being, like, instead of doing better, about being better and just being a more open. And I think that is available. Like, when I think of the kind of stuff that Seth Godin talks about, and this guy that we're taking the course from, this Kane Ramsey guy, like, there certainly there is a revolution among men.
Yes.
To have better emotional intelligence and be more flexible and lead by example. And I mean, I remember talking to, and there's another mentor, my friend Sue Thibodeau, right? And, you know, she would come to work and plant a smile on her face when I was her vice principal, and yet all kinds of stuff could be going on, and because she was managing, you know, a lot of stuff outside of, there was stuff going on, but we just you know, we don't feel like we have permission to let it all hang out.
No.
So, and a lot of women have defied the odds, right? Like, so, and
it's too bad that there has to be something to defy, and that there has to be the glass ceiling, and that we haven't evolved or progressed or changed enough
to elect somebody like Hillary Clinton as, and even in Canada, we have a hard time with women. Like, when you think of the politicians, like Christine Elliott, some people don't like her, but I think she's a strong woman, and Chrystia Freeland, like, they are as strong or stronger than either of the men
that are governing right now.
But they're women, so they don't seem to get the opportunity.
And the thing is, the way our election system works is, like, even the general populace, like electorate, didn't elect them in. Or if there was like 500 members of one of the parties, the party didn't elect them as their leader.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, I think also as well, it's been harder for women to make that choice to be a leader, because it's hard to push in, and sometimes you're just like, never mind, like,
and then when the media, I'm sorry, which is probably half women now, ask about shoes.
I know.
And
well, that's
clothing,
like
that's superficial.
I remember watching that documentary on Hillary Clinton, right? And she would go to get on stage, and it would all be about what she's wearing and her shoes and her makeup and her whatever. And it is well, you can see me tonight. I certainly didn't dress up for the occasion because I think it's inappropriate to do that. Men don't do that. They put on the dark suit and go out on the stage if it's a formal occasion. Yeah. And a lot of people don't even do that now.
No. But nobody really comments on what shoes they're wearing or who their designer is, or
it's ridiculous.
Like that. That's all status stuff.
And, you know, to even suggest to a woman that they don't look like, I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
But I don't really know if it's men making the commentary about them.
No, women are terrible to each other.
I think like the women in the media are focusing on all that trivia.
Yeah. Well, and
it doesn't help.
Look at women who are news anchors.
Yeah.
And then they'll be sitting there beside some gray wrinkled old man.
Yeah.
But he's fine.
Right. But she has to look all dolled up.
And then the other one I did was women as laborers. In most countries, men tend to participate in labor markets more frequently than women. But all over the world, like labor force participation among women of working age has increased substantially in the last century.
But the pay is a lot.
The pay is lower. And they're still juggling all this. And like at least now they have a year-long maternity leave in Canada.
Yeah. Well, we've had it for
a long time.
At least 7 years.
Yeah, right? But not for me.
No, you didn't.
No.
And you can have parental leave now, so the men can stay home half the time or all of the time if you want.
Yeah, women all over the world, though, allocate a substantial amount of time to activities that are not typically recorded as economic activities. So female participation in labor markets tend to increase when the time cost of unpaid care work is reduced. So, or shared equally with men.
Yeah, well, and I know, like, on your blog, you do the crafts and the art, the creative outlets as well, and this is a huge issue in the crafts that have been designated as women's crafts.
Yeah.
Because then they're not valued and nobody wants to pay for it. If I were to use a lathe and make the handle for a crochet hook, that handle would cost $50.
Right.
But if a woman, and it might take the man, sorry to use a stereotype, it might take the carpenter 30 minutes to turn a handle, and $50, bang. It might take a woman 20 minutes to crochet a blanket, 20 hours to crochet a sweater, and she can't get.
Well, and I learned this when I had that little craft booth, right?
Yeah. Ooh.
Like all these things that were worth, and I wasn't even charging that much for them, and people didn't want to pay for it.
No.
Because
it's women's work. So it's that whole thing that you wrote about there.
When the time, and the other thing is, when you're, like, unless you are sharing equally with your partner, and I talk about women as partners next, unless you're sharing equally with your partner, if you have a full-time, very, very, very busy job, you have to hire somebody to help.
Yeah.
Like, it's not possible.
And that's why daycare is a thing, because then women hire the daycares to help them with the child rearing, but the house cleaning or whatever. Yeah. So, and then women as partners, success and likability. If you want to support women as partners in. Like in a relationship?
In a relationship or in a work environment or whatever, you have to challenge what they call the likability penalty. So success and likability are positively correlated for men and negatively correlated for women. When a man is successful, his peers like him more. When a woman is successful, both men and women often like them less. Yeah. So the trade-off between success and likability is a double blind for women. If a woman is competent, she doesn't seem nice enough. But if a woman sees really nice, she is considered less confident. So this can have a big impact on a woman's career. Ask yourself, who are you more likely to support and promote? The man with high marks across the board, or the woman who has equally high marks but is just not as well liked?
Wow. Good question.
So this bias often surfaces in the way women are described, both in passing and in performance reviews.
And in job interviews.
Yeah. When a woman asserts herself, for example, by speaking in a direct style or promoting her ideas, I know this because this happened to me all the time. She's called aggressive. When a man does the same thing, he's confident and strong.
Yeah.
So when you hear a woman, here's a second one. When you hear a woman called bossy or shrill, request a specific example of what the woman did and then ask, would you have the same reaction if a man did the same thing? In many cases, the answer will be no. You can fall into these false bias traps, so think carefully about your own response to female co-workers. Women are more likely to receive feedback that they are intimidating, too aggressive, or bossy.
Especially when they negotiate.
So evaluate women's performance fairly. Male performance is often overestimated compared to female performance, starting with mothers overestimated boys' crawling abilities and underestimating girls. It's interesting, eh?
But that's where it does start. Also, that whole part about saying you're sorry more frequently, that's trained. Like when linguists study the difference of gender language and expression.
Well, and it's
girls are trained to be more whatever, and boys are excused from it.
And over time, even small deviations in performance evaluation have a significant impact on women's careers and therefore their earning potential, right?
Yep.
This difference in the perceived performance of men and women also helps explain why women are hired and promoted based on what they have already accomplished, while men are hired and promoted based on their potential.
Wow.
So you have to make sure everyone on your team is aware of gender bias and evaluating performance. And gender blind studies consistently show that removing gender from decisions improves women's chances of success. One study found that replacing a woman's name with a man's name on a resume improved the odds of her getting hired by 61%.
There have been women that are named Terry or Chris by their parents deliberately so that they can get hired when they are adults.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty amazing that they would choose gender neutral names.
And then to women getting credit, right? And I think this happens within the home too sometimes. Women and men ascribe their success to different things. Men typically attribute their success to innate qualities and skills, while women often attribute successes to external factors such as working hard and getting lucky and getting help from others.
That's very true.
And women and men also differ when it comes to explaining their failures. When a man fails, he attributes it to a situational factor like didn't practice enough or not interested. When a woman fails, she's going to attribute it to her own lack of ability. And then when women are more likely undervalued. When women and men work together on tasks, women are given less credit for successful outcomes and blamed more for the failure. And because women receive less credit and give themselves less credit, then the confidence is eroded and promotions don't happen. And so, looking for opportunities to acknowledge women and their contributions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, looking for opportunities to acknowledge the contribution of women who are home trying to raise their children too.
Yeah.
Like that's a whole... men will apply for jobs when they meet 60% of the hiring criteria, while women wait until they meet 100%.
Wow.
Get the most out of meetings. Compared to women, men talk more and make more suggestions in meetings, 100%. While women are interrupted more, given less credit for their ideas, and have less overall influence. Now, we all know women that don't shut up in meetings.
Yes.
But it starts in school, right?
Yes, but maybe that is an overcompensation for having been shut down too much.
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
Right? And then here we go again with the gender bias. So they are talking more in meetings. So then we label that as a negative thing.
Yeah. But if you think of people like I have also had men who are even more annoying in meetings.
Yes, because all they're doing is spouting.
Spouting.
Mm-hmm.
In an 8-member team, 3 members will make 67% of the comments. In a 5-member team, 2 members will make 70% of the comments.
Wow.
That's interesting, eh? So,
well, I see that at work. Absolutely.
If you are the chair of the meeting, then you have to be looking for ways to draw everyone into the conversation. Mm-hmm. And then this one is the sharing of office housework. So women take on more office housework, service, and support work, such as taking notes, organizing events, and training new hires. These tasks steal valuable time away from core responsibilities. And, you know, the person taking diligent notes in the meeting almost never makes the killer point.
Right, because they're too busy keeping track
You
of
know,
everything.
People expect help from women, but not from men. So when women do favors at work, they earn no points for doing so. But when they say no, then they're penalized. And men, on the other hand, get all these points for saying yes and face minimal consequences for saying no. And if, you know, pay attention to who volunteers for different types of work and distribute it. Like, just say, no, all the women don't have to do all this. Mm-hmm. Like, how many times is it women who are organizing the gift for somebody? Why? Why can't men organize the gift for somebody?
Absolutely.
And, you know, and while they're organizing that gift, they're not doing their, you know...
Yeah, it's taking their focus away from whatever.
Yes. Yep. And they're not appreciated for it.
No. It's an expectation.
Yes. And don't fall into the trap of expecting women to take on stereotypical roles like team mom or note taker. In a performance evaluation study, men who stayed late to help prepare for a meeting were rated 14% more favorably than women who did the exact same thing. When both men and women failed to help, the women were penalized with a 12% lower rating than men.
Wow.
And this one is called Make Work Work for Parents. Many studies show that pushback or maternal wall women experience when they have kids is the strongest gender bias. So motherhood triggers assumptions that a woman is less competent and less committed to her career. Mm-hmm. So that means you have to be twice as committed and twice as competent because you're pushing through that.
Always.
And I mean, I remember that, like, with Sue Thibodeau, because she said, you know, she would hear women complaining about their kids or how busy they were and everything. And she said, I would never do that as a leader.
She didn't want to come across
as, right?
Wow.
And
even though she had the same burdens and concerns.
Of course. And it would have been good if men and women could say, yeah, no, I have to get home. I have to support my kids. But no, it's like,
but what about the men who have to get home and support their kids, and then the women colleagues attack those men's wives?
Yeah.
Why is she such a bitch? Because he's henpecked. She's got him. Like, that happens.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. It happened to me.
Well, and it's judgmental, right? To be like that. This also impacts women who aren't mothers and men too. Women often face pushback as soon as they're engaged to be married, and fathers who leave work earlier, take time off for family, pay a higher price than mothers. Yeah. Study shows that fathers receive lower performance ratings and experience steeper reductions in future earnings after taking time away from work for family reasons, and you certainly did.
12 years of part-time.
Yeah. Women also often leave before they leave, compromising their careers in anticipation of family responsibilities they don't even have yet. Mm-hmm. They turn down projects, they don't apply for promotion.
Or they're trying to get pregnant.
Or so they choose more flexible paths to accommodate their families that they plan to have someday, closing doors to opportunities. So don't assume mothers won't be willing to take on challenging assignments or travel. And avoid saying, I don't know how you do it, which can signal that you think mothers should be at home. Mm-hmm. If you're a parent, be vocal about the time you spend away from work with your children. This gives other parents in your organization permission to do the same. Mm-hmm. If it's available to you, take paternity leave. And if it's not, push your company for better policies. As more men and women bring their whole selves to work, the bias linked to motherhood and fatherhood then begins to break down.
I'm really curious with all of us working at home now, and what the impact is going to be now with men that are working from home but have to leave the camera, have to go deal with something.
Yeah.
And come back.
Well, and Rita and I were talking. My friend and
there's got to, hopefully some of this.
My
changes.
friend and I were talking, about that, and how people are struggling. And I said, well, as a parent, if my kid is online with you as the teacher, and your kid comes in and asks a question or interrupts or something, I would think that was totally natural. Like, that just makes sense. I wouldn't consider that you were a bad teacher or that anything like that. I would just consider that this is a natural part of whatever. So, I think it's just that whole idea of living your life authentically and letting people look, and this goes back to what we were talking about this morning, this idea of seeing life from a whole bunch of different perspectives. I have to look at life from someone else, other perspectives, and maybe mine is just distorted, and I think there were times.
Well, and then maybe it's time for men to look at it from a woman's perspective.
Right, and I also think that sometimes women, and I'm guilty of this, well, I want it done a certain way, so I just do it.
Yes.
Right, and so that now I'm enabling everybody around me to do nothing.
And there's research on that. It's called gatekeeping.
Yeah. So, there's a whole bunch of things. But in the end, I feel that the points that I've brought up here, like the 10 things, are really important parts of, who we are and the contributions of women to society. And I think it's just really important that we talk about them and recognize them. Absolutely.
As a society. I just think that there's a lot. Well, I don't know when I say a lot. There's just room for more.
And I think that it's as simple as, when you talk about Black Lives Matter and women's rights and LGBTQ, whatever the other letters are, rights. It's as simple and complicated as perspective taking. Because if I really truly want to see life from your perspective, I can see it. I can choose to see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, number 10, women as caretakers. Number 9, women as educators. Number 8, women as innovators, which we went through a whole bunch of different women inventors and contributors to society. So that was I'm just flipping through here. There were a lot of women, and I don't know, I found it very interesting, and I found it very interesting to think of the women that I didn't even know who they were. That was the most and then number 7, women as communicators, and sort of the different styles between men and women as change makers, women as volunteers, women as mentors. Number 3 was women as leaders. Number 2 was women as laborers in the labor market, and number 1 is women as partners. So
that's good.
Yeah, so hopefully you found it interesting. And anyway,
what's coming up next week?
Next is the top 10 questions to ask to discover who someone really is, for real.
Ooh.
So
maybe
I'll ask you the questions and make you answer them.
I don't know if I want to answer them on tape.
Thank you for joining us for No Room for Phonies, the top 10 contributions of women to society.